If you don't mind, I'd like to kick a little bit of game, if you don't mind. This is an important topic for so many of you will encounter pre-owned cars. You will encounter used goods. You will encounter dented cans. You will encounter hand-me-down clothes. So few of you will encounter brand new. You'll never get in and smell that new car smell. Often you will be getting someone's leftovers. Yes, indeed, it hurts. It's a cold world. Now, the funny thing, as I've said before, is as men, we want to be a woman's first man. Women want the man to be her last man, her final love. Women always get what they want: marriage, monogamy. And most of the males, they suffer. They don't get what they want. You don't get to be her first man. You don't take her virginity. You don't get her fresh with no experience. Oh, you encounter her with bumps, bruises, cuts, scars, trauma, and all the rest of it. And you got to deal with it. But let's talk about how damaging this can be to you. And let's perhaps try to share with the ladies such that they might be wise enough to have a little bit of sympathy, understanding, and respect. Let us, if you will, use a bit of logic. I once had a conversation with a young lady, and we were talking about her father, and we were talking about her ex, and I had said, or she was telling me that her father wanted her to be closer to the family, move into the city that they're in, which is a city kind of a bit in the middle of nowhere. And she said, yes, he tries to bribe me with many things, with this, with that, even with a house. I say, well, a house, that's a pretty good bribe, except that I wouldn't want to live there, even with a free house. I say, well, why didn't he get us a house in Miami? Now, mind you, I say this jokingly, teasing. And she says, well, I would never ask him to do that because, he used to do these kinds of things for my last man. And it went so badly, Then she gave a couple examples. And I thought that was worth thinking twice about for the following reason. Women will often suggest that when they encounter you, they're fresh, they're a whole new person, and they'll even lie sometimes and say, this is my first time ever doing this. Well, it's not their first time doing anything, I can assure you of that. But more importantly, every time you deal with a woman after she's dealt with another guy, she's dropping down one level of value in reality, but definitely not in her mind. And if you're a fool, not in your mind either, but you'll get less. And so I thought that was fascinating because let me tell you a truth about all women and all of their relationships. It should really shock you that I know this. I can promise you that any woman you are dealing with today, all of her relationships, if you're dealing with her, all of her relationships failed. You might be wondering, well, how could you possibly know that, Marquett? Well, that's why she's dealing with you. All of the past relationships failed, which is to suggest that they were all inferior to what she has with you, or at least she should think of them that way, because if they were superior, well, she better hurry back to that last guy. So by merit of her being with you, you are a better opportunity. Your relationship is a better opportunity. So why is it that you would get less? Why is it that in this particular case, she says, yeah, my father supported me and my last man, and he helped out my last man, but that wasn't a good thing because my last man wasn't ambitious. My last man didn't contribute. My last man didn't appreciate what my father gave him. And you know what? I'm never doing that again. And then I said, oh, that's a pity, pish posh. And it really is a pity. I said, so you're saying that you wouldn't allow your father to help us get a home in Miami? She says, well, you could afford to get a home in Miami. I said, you're right. I could. I absolutely could. Now, mind you, we're just talking theoretical here. I'm not one who asks for handouts or would accept handouts from a stranger. But this is an important thing to understand her psychology, and for you all to understand how the background of any woman will impact you, and how it's such a pity that she's not more thankful for me and more appreciative of me than she is. Because what she's actually saying, the holosophy has her thinking that it's okay to give me less than she gave the last guy, which is extraordinary because if I'm better than him, I should get more. Just very logical thing. But in a woman's mind, she says, oh, well, things didn't work out, or he was a bad guy, or I made a mistake, or that wasn't the right thing, so I'm never going to do it again. And so I said to her, well, no, I don't need the money at all, and I don't need the help at all. But if I wanted it, you're saying that wouldn't be available to me. She was like, that's right. I'm never doing that again. I said, okay, so you would make something available to him, but not to me. Oh, that's a pity. She says, well, yeah, he wasn't thankful. He didn't pay it back. And you know what? I want to be able to give to my parents. I don't want to take from my parents. I said, that makes so much sense. I agree. Give to your parents. Don't take from them. I said, but they're not my parents. So if you and I grow old and then your parents are even older and it's time to take care of them, they've given me nothing. They've put no investment in me. So I now need to give to them and support them. Think on that. But let's rewind back to the current situation of if your father gave to your previous boyfriend or husband or ex-husband or fiance, whomever, whatever the title would be, and you said that guy was lazy and unappreciative and unproductive, and so he was not able to pay it back. I say, you all both knew that in advance. You and your father gave him capital in advance, being aware that he was unproductive, broke, comes from a poor family, had no future prospects. Let me tell you something about banks. Banks would rather lend money to people who have money than people who don't have money. You see, if they lend to someone who doesn't have money, probably they won't be able to repay. And the bank doesn't have recourse because that person has no assets. Conversely, if a bank lends to someone who has money, has assets, then the bank can recover losses. That person has something to lose, but most importantly, that individual has shown a track record of being productive, being a contributor. Hence, it's ironic that you wouldn't allow your father to essentially give me money to get us together a beautiful mansion in Miami, wherein I'm productive, I'm ambitious, I'm successful, and I have money. It would make way more sense to give it to me. I know what to do with it. I know how to allocate capital. That's what I've been doing for over a decade, doing it at a high level effectively. Furthermore, if somehow I made a mistake or wanted to run off and basically commit theft, my name is known, my face is known, and my assets would then be at risk. So there's great incentive for me to not do that. So basically, you are penalizing me for your past poor mate selection and for his low qualities, his being both your father and his foolish decision and your ex and his low way of living. But I suffer. Now, would the woman get on her knees and say, you know what, I want to thank you for even being with me because the last guy I dealt with is so low and you're so much above. I need to be thankful and I need to pay tribute. That's really what they should do. But instead, what would they do? They start crying and complaining, which is to remind you all that both the men and women watching, this is the importance of virginity. You see, because just imagine the situation was different, that she didn't have her ex-boyfriend who was a low life and a fool, but instead I was her ex-boyfriend and we were young on our come up and her father supported me, a well-educated, ambitious man who took that money, invested it or put it into a home and continued building a career earning and owning businesses and then was able to give it back with interest or not give it back. What if I just kept it, but continued rising, taking care of his daughter in the best of ways, and then in his old age, took care of him in the best of ways? It would be excellent. And that would only be possible if A, she selected the right guy at the right time, and B, she didn't have that previous bad experience such that she was willing to allocate capital. The father would be willing to allocate capital. That's what family's for. But because of the scarring, the emotional scarring of her past, she basically told me, I'm not all in. That's what that translates to. I'm not all in. I will deny you of things. I don't respect that. And I want to encourage each and every man out there to be a real man. I was on a live session earlier. I had the privilege of speaking with high energy, very positive, successful men. In the midst of that, there were a couple men who joined on the live on IG that weren't even focused enough to be able to have their camera facing the right way, or they'll join on and say, oh, this was an accident. And that represents the average man, which is quite low quality. I don't want you to be out there wondering why you don't have more wealth, wondering why you don't have better women when you yourself are a low quality person. That goes for men and women, but men especially. You're not going to be able to skip by being a low quality person. To those of you who are within this thing of ours and full fledged and really live out the ism every day, you inspire me and I appreciate you. Until next time. Let us end this the way we always end this, with the creed of the assassin. Repeat after me with full conviction, knowing this is true of you. The creed of the assassin.
I am going to be who I truly am.
Because I am remarkable.
And I'm going to strive every moment to show the greatest part,
to show the greatest part, to show the greatest part of who I am.
Until next time.